Here's something that's going to sound backwards at first. The guy driving the 15-year-old pickup truck is statistically more likely to be a millionaire than the guy leasing a brand new luxury car. This isn't an opinion, it's not a motivational quote, it's not something I made up to sound contrarian. It's one of the most consistent findings in every serious study ever done on actual millionaires in America. The people who have real, lasting, generational wealth almost never look the way we expect them to look. And the people who look the wealthiest, who project the most success, who seem to have it all figured out on Instagram, are very often the most financially fragile people in the room. Today we're breaking down stealth wealth, why looking rich and being rich are almost never the same thing, why the visible markers of success are often the exact opposite of actual financial security, and why understanding this difference might be the single most important money lesson nobody teaches you, not in school, not from your parents, not from the financial media. Nobody teaches you this because the entire economy is built on you not understanding it. Let's start with the confusion at the center of this entire topic, the fundamental, catastrophic confusion that ruins more financial lives than any market crash or recession ever could. And that confusion is the difference between income and net worth. Income is how much money flows through your hands every year. It's your salary, your business revenue, your side hustle earnings. It's the number on your W-2. It's the number people ask about at parties. What do you make? That's an income question. Net worth is how much you actually keep. It's your assets minus your debts. It's what you'd have left if you sold everything you owned and paid off every single dollar you owed. It's the number nobody asks about at parties because it's private, it's complicated, and for most people, it's deeply uncomfortable to confront. Here's the problem. Our brains are wired to judge wealth by what we see, and what we see is spending, not net worth. We see the car in the driveway, we see the house on the street, we see the watch, the clothes, the vacation photos. We never see the brokerage account, we never see the debt statement, we never see the negative equity. We see the performance, and we mistake it for the reality. A person can have an enormous income, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, and a near zero net worth if every dollar goes out the door as fast as it comes in. In fact, this is more common than you'd think. There are doctors earning $400,000 a year who are living paycheck to paycheck because their lifestyle costs $410,000 a year. There are lawyers, executives, and business owners who look incredibly successful from the outside and are one bad quarter away from financial disaster. Their income is massive. Their net worth is nothing. Sometimes it's negative. Meanwhile, someone with a modest, unremarkable income, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, can quietly build a substantial net worth simply by consistently spending less than they earn and investing the difference, year after year, decade after decade. No drama, no flash, no Instagram posts, just quiet, relentless accumulation. Research on actual American millionaires has consistently found something that surprises most people. A large share of them are not doctors, they're not celebrities, they're not tech founders who went viral, they're not professional athletes or entertainers, they're often small business owners, plumbers who built a company, electricians who scaled to 10 trucks, engineers who lived below their means for 30 years, teachers who invested every summer paycheck, middle managers who never upgraded their lifestyle despite getting raises every year. The classic research on this, most famously documented in the landmark study behind the book The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley and William Danko, surveyed thousands of actual millionaires across America. Not people who looked rich, not people who drove nice cars, people who actually had a net worth of $1 million or more. And what they found completely shattered the cultural image of wealth. The average millionaire in their study lived in a modest, middle-class home. They drove cars that were several years old. They wore inexpensive watches. They shopped at ordinary stores. Many of them had never spent more than a few $100s on a suit. They didn't live in Beverly Hills. They didn't drive Ferraris. They lived in ordinary neighborhoods in ordinary cities, and their neighbors had no idea they were sitting on seven-figure net worths. And here's the critical insight from that research. They didn't live that way because they were cheap. They didn't live that way because they were miserable or depriving themselves. They lived that way because that behavior is what allowed them to become millionaires in the first place. The modest lifestyle wasn't the punishment for being wealthy. It was the cause of being wealthy. They got rich by not spending, and once they were rich, they saw no reason to change a formula that worked.
Let's talk about why flashy spending and real wealth are often direct opposites. Not just unrelated, not just unconnected, actual opposites. Every dollar spent on looking rich is a dollar that cannot be used to become rich. It's a zero-sum game, and the math is brutal. A car is one of the most brutal examples of this, so let's use it. A new luxury vehicle typically loses 20 to 30% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. Within 3 years, it's lost roughly 50%. Within 5 years, it's often worth less than half of what you paid. This isn't a theory. This is a well-documented, universally acknowledged pattern called depreciation. It is the single most guaranteed financial loss you can make on a consumer purchase. So let's do the math on a $70,000 luxury vehicle. You buy it. 3 years later, it's worth $35,000. You've lost $35,000 in value. But it's worse than that, because most people don't pay cash, they finance it. So you're paying interest on a loan for a product that's losing value every single day. You're paying the bank for the privilege of owning something that's worth less than what you owe. That's not wealth building, that's wealth destruction, with a leather interior and a premium sound system. Now imagine that same person took the $700 or $800 a month they would have spent on that car payment and invested it in a low-cost index fund instead. Over 5 years, at a historical average return of 7% after inflation, that's roughly $55,000 in a growing portfolio. Over 10 years, it's over $130,000. Over 20 years, it's over $400,000. The car is worth nothing. The investment is worth a fortune. Same money, same monthly amount, completely opposite outcomes. And this applies to everything. The bigger house than you need, the designer clothes, the expensive vacations taken on credit, the latest phone every single year, the country club membership, the boat that sits in the marina 30 weekends a year. Every single one of these is a dollar that was taken from your future freedom and handed to someone else's marketing department. This is the core mechanic of stealth wealth. Every dollar not spent signaling status is a dollar that can compound instead. And compounding, as we've talked about before on this channel, is the single most powerful force in building real wealth over time. It's not dramatic, it's not exciting, it doesn't make for a good Instagram post, but it is relentless and it is unstoppable. And it rewards the people who are patient enough to let it work. The person who looks impressive today is often quietly borrowing from their future self. They're pulling money forward from a retirement they'll never be able to afford just to feel successful for a few years in their 30s or 40s. The person who looks unremarkable today is often quietly building a future most people will never see. And by the time they're 60 or 50 or 45, the gap between those two people is so enormous, it's almost incomprehensible. Now let's talk about the psychology behind why so many people fall into this trap. Because it's not stupidity, it's not a lack of information. Everyone knows, intellectually, that spending less than you earn is the path to wealth. Everyone knows that a car payment is not an investment. Everyone knows this. And yet, millions of people do the opposite every single day. Why? Because humans are deeply social creatures, and status signaling is an ancient, powerful, almost irresistible instinct. For hundreds of thousands of years, your position in the group determined whether you survived, whether you ate, whether you reproduced, whether you were protected or abandoned. We are wired at a neurological level to care what others think of our position in the hierarchy, to signal that we are successful, capable, high-status members of the tribe. The problem is that modern consumer marketing has become incredibly, terrifyingly effective at connecting products directly to that ancient instinct. Luxury brands don't just sell a product. They don't sell a car or a watch or a handbag. They sell the feeling of arrival, the feeling of having made it, the feeling of being seen, being respected, being envied. They sell identity. They sell belonging. They sell the answer to the question, am I enough? And that feeling is emotionally powerful enough that many people will go into debt to access it, even when it actively, measurably, mathematically works against their long-term financial interest. And now, in the age of social media, this problem has been amplified to a degree that previous generations never had to face. You no longer just compare yourself to your neighbors. You compare yourself to millions of curated, filtered, often completely fabricated images of success. You see the 25-year-old with the Lamborghini. You see the influencer with the Dubai vacation. You see the highlight reel of everyone's spending. And you never see their debt, their stress, their negative net worth, their panic attacks at 2 in the morning. You see the performance, and you think it's the reality. And you feel behind. You feel like you're failing. And so you spend to close the gap, a gap that doesn't actually exist. This creates what's sometimes called the poverty of the appearance of wealth, a cycle where someone spends heavily to project success, which requires maintaining a high income just to service that lifestyle, which leaves little or nothing left over to actually invest, which means despite years of high earning, their real net worth barely moves. They're trapped. They can't stop earning because if they stop, the whole performance collapses. They can't take the lower-paying job they'd actually enjoy. They can't start the business they've been dreaming about. They can't take a year off to travel or raise their kids. They are chained to their income by their own spending. They look free. They are the least free people in the room. Meanwhile, someone earning less but living below their means and investing consistently can end up with dramatically more real wealth over the same time period, simply because they never got trapped in that cycle in the first place. They never inflated their lifestyle. They never took on the payments. They never built a prison out of leather seats and granite countertops. And so their options remain open. Their freedom remains intact. They can walk away from a job they hate. They can say no. They can choose. And that ability to choose is what real wealth actually is. Let's make this real with a detailed comparison. 2 people, same starting point, same income, completely different choices, completely different lives. Imagine 2 people, both earning $100,000 a year, both 30 years old, both starting from zero. The first person, let's call him Jason, spends aggressively. He buys a new car every 3 or 4 years, always financed, always around $45,000 to $50,000. He buys a larger home than he needs, stretching his mortgage to the absolute maximum the bank will approve. He upgrades his phone every year. He eats out 4 or 5 times a week. He takes expensive vacations. He dresses well. He looks successful. His Instagram looks like a highlight reel. And at the end of every month, there's almost nothing left. Sometimes he invests a little. Most months, he doesn't. Over 20 years, despite earning $2 million in total income, his net worth might be $150,000, maybe $200,000, once you account for the mortgage equity and the depreciated value of his cars and possessions. $2 million in, $2 million kept. A 10% retention rate, and he's stressed. He's always stressed, because if he loses his job, the whole thing unravels in 90 days. The second person, let's call her Sarah, lives on a noticeably smaller portion of that same income. She drives a modest, reliable, paid-off car that she bought used for $18,000 and plans to drive for 10 years. She lives in a reasonably sized home, not the biggest on the block, not the newest development. She cooks at home most nights. She takes vacations, but she plans them, budgets them, and pays for them in cash. She doesn't post them online. And consistently, automatically, every single month, she invests 15 to 20% of her income into low-cost, broadly diversified index funds. She doesn't think about it. She doesn't check it every day. She just lets it run. Assuming a historical average investment return around 7% after inflation, that consistent habit alone, over 20 years, could realistically grow into a portfolio worth over $1 million. Let me say that again. Over $1 million, built entirely from the exact same income as Jason, the same $100,000 a year, the same 20 years, just allocated completely differently. And Sarah isn't stressed. She isn't checking her phone at 2 in the morning. She isn't terrified of losing her job because her lifestyle doesn't require her full income to sustain. She has options. She has freedom. She has wealth. And nobody at the office knows it because she drives the same car she's driven for 6 years and brings lunch in a container. That's the entire secret hiding inside stealth wealth. It was never about earning more. It was never about the size of the paycheck. It was about what happens to the money after it arrives. The gap between Jason and Sarah isn't an income gap, it's a behavior gap. And behavior is something you can change. Income is often something you can't control. Behavior is entirely within your power. Now, this doesn't mean wealthy people never spend money or enjoy nice things. That's an important distinction, and I want to be very clear about this. Stealth wealth isn't about deprivation. It's not about suffering. It's not about eating rice and beans for 30 years so you can die with a big number in a brokerage account. That's not the point. That's not freedom. That's just a different kind of prison. Stealth wealth is about intentional spending instead of status-driven spending. It's about spending money on things that genuinely improve your life, rather than things that are designed to impress people who don't care about you. Many people who quietly build significant wealth do eventually spend meaningfully on things that matter to them. They take the trip, they buy the nicer home once it's paid for in cash, they send their kids to the school they want, they donate to causes they believe in, they enjoy their money. But they do it after building a strong financial foundation. They do it with money that's already been accounted for, not money that's secretly funding a lifestyle they can't actually afford, not money borrowed from a future they'll never get to enjoy. The stealth wealthy person might spend $10,000 on a family vacation and feel zero guilt, because that $10,000 came from a dedicated savings account they funded all year, and their retirement contributions were already made, and their emergency fund is untouched. The status spender might spend the same $10,000 on a credit card and feel a brief rush of excitement, followed by 6 months of quiet panic. Same amount of money, completely different experience. The difference isn't the spending. The difference is the foundation underneath it. Let's talk about the mindset shift that makes all of this possible. Because you can know the math, you can understand depreciation, you can understand compounding, you can understand all of it intellectually, and still fall into the trap. Because the trap isn't mathematical, it's psychological. And the only way out is a fundamental shift in what you're optimizing for. The core belief driving stealth wealth is this: the goal isn't to look successful to strangers, acquaintances, coworkers, or social media followers. The goal is to actually be free. Free from debt, free from financial stress, free from the terror of an unexpected expense, free to make life decisions based on what you want, not what your paycheck requires you to keep doing. Free to walk away from a toxic boss, free to start over, free to say no, Free to spend a Tuesday afternoon with your kids instead of in a meeting you hate because your money is working whether you're there or not. Once that mental shift happens, once freedom becomes the metric instead of appearance, spending money purely to impress people starts to feel a lot less appealing because you realize something liberating. Those people aren't thinking about you. They're not admiring your car. They're not impressed by your watch. They're thinking about their own car, their own watch, their own anxieties. You're performing for an audience that isn't watching, and the cost of that performance is your freedom, your future, your peace of mind. And here's another truth that nobody wants to hear. The people whose approval you're spending money to earn are often the least financially stable people you know. The person complimenting your new car might be 3 months behind on their own payments. The person liking your vacation photos might be drowning in credit card debt. You're going into debt to impress people who are already in debt. It's a collective delusion, and the only way to win is to stop playing. Here's the framework to take with you. 5 rules. Write them down. Make them your filter for every financial decision you make from this day forward. Rule 1. Net worth, not income, is the real scoreboard. Track what you keep, not just what you earn. Calculate your net worth every quarter. Assets minus debts. Watch the number grow. That's the only number that matters. Your salary is irrelevant if your net worth isn't moving. Rule 2. Be suspicious of any purchase whose main purpose is signaling status rather than solving a real problem in your life. Before you buy something, ask yourself, would I still want this if nobody could ever see me with it? If the answer is no, you're not buying a product, you're buying an audience, and that audience doesn't care about you. Rule 3. Prioritize appreciating assets over depreciating ones whenever you're deciding where money goes. Investments grow. Cars shrink. Houses can do both. Businesses can do both. But a dollar in an index fund is a dollar that works for you forever. A dollar in a depreciating consumer good is a dollar that's gone forever. Choose where your dollars go. Rule 4. Understand that the visible markers of wealth, cars, clothes, watches, houses, are often the least reliable indicators of someone's actual financial position. The person who looks the richest is often the most leveraged. The person who looks the most ordinary is often the most free. Stop comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You don't know their numbers. You never will. And Rule 5. Build your financial decisions around your own long-term freedom, not around impressions you'll never actually be able to verify or control. You cannot control what people think of you. You cannot control whether they're impressed. You cannot control whether they notice your car or your clothes or your house. What you can control is whether you're free at 50, whether you can sleep at night, whether you can walk away from something that's making you miserable. Optimize for that. Optimize for the thing you can actually control. This is exactly why some of the wealthiest people you'll ever meet might look completely unremarkable. They're wearing ordinary clothes. They're driving ordinary cars. They're living in ordinary houses in ordinary neighborhoods. And they have 7 figures in the bank, 0 debt, and the ability to do whatever they want with the rest of their lives. And you'd never know it, because they're not performing for you. They don't need you to know. And some of the most financially stressed people you know might look like they have it all figured out. The biggest house on the street, the newest car in the driveway, the best clothes, the most expensive vacations, and they're one missed paycheck from disaster. They're drowning, they're trapped, and they'll never tell you because the performance requires silence. Appearance was never a reliable measurement. It never has been, it never will be. Net worth is the only number that actually tells the truth. Freedom is the only outcome that actually matters. So here's my question for you, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Comment below and tell me, Have you ever caught yourself spending money to look successful instead of actually building wealth? Have you ever bought something not because you needed it, not because it improved your life, but because you wanted someone else to see you with it? Have you ever felt the pressure to upgrade your lifestyle just to keep up with people whose financial reality you don't actually know? Tell me in the comments. No judgment, we've all done it. The point isn't guilt, the point is awareness. And awareness is where change starts. Subscribe to The Violent Vault, hit the notification bell, because next time we're breaking down another money mindset shift that quietly separates the people who build real wealth from the people who just look like they have it. We don't do surface-level advice here. We don't do hype. We do the deep, uncomfortable, transformative work of actually understanding money. And if that's what you're here for, you're in the right place. Because remember, the goal was never to look rich. The goal was never to impress strangers. The goal was never to win a performance nobody asked you to participate in. The goal was always to actually be free. And freedom doesn't look like a luxury car. Freedom looks like a paid-off life, a growing portfolio, and the ability to wake up on a Monday morning and say, I don't have to do anything today that I don't want to do. That's stealth wealth. That's the real secret, and it's available to anyone willing to stop performing and start building. Thanks for watching The Violent Vault. I'll see you in the next one.